Of all the changes that I've experienced in tech, the wave of AI innovation has just swept them all away in terms of the breadth, the depth, and the speed of the impact that it's having across every element of not just our personal, but obviously our professional lives. And as we've talked about before, it's nearly impossible to keep up with it all, especially without some way of curating and concentrating all of that news feed, which is something of a mission statement for today's guest. Welcome to another episode of the AI Forecast, proudly sponsored by Cloudera. I'm your host, Paul Muller. Join me along with leading companies and industry experts every week as we explore the past, the present, and the future of data and AI in the enterprise. Well, today we're joined by Ravit Jain. Now, Ravit, many of you probably know who he is, but he's the founder and host of the Ravit Show, which is a global platform reaching literally millions with conversations on data, AI, and emerging tech. He's interviewed over 500, nearly 600 industry leaders, worked with hundreds of companies, and is really passionate about bringing a broad practitioner-led view of the AI landscape to the world. Welcome to the show, Ravit.
I'm excited to be on board and excited to chat today.
Well, flipping the mix. Normally it's you doing the interviewing.
That's right. I'm loving to be on the other side of the table and excited for all the questions you're going to bring on me. I hope it's not going to be hard on me.
I mean, you've spoken to so many people about AI. If you don't have an answer to one of my questions, just use someone else's.
That's definitely a good one to obviously think about. I'll try to keep it as unique as I can in terms of my perspective, but that's a good one, Paul.
I love it. All right, mate. We'll talk. Let's get onto it in a minute. But before we do something lightning round, our fast 4 questions at the beginning of every podcast. Are you ready to reveal all your secrets?
Let's do it.
All right. First question, Ravit. What would people who know you best, it could be friends, family, could be work colleagues, what would people say is your superpower?
That's an interesting one. I feel connecting the dots across conversations is definitely a superpower. I talk to a lot of leaders, like you said, but the real value is spotting patterns early and simplifying them for everyone out there is definitely a superpower. And I hope it helps the larger community out there.
It definitely does. I agree with you 100%. All right. Next up, there's been a lot of technology, most obviously recently things like AI, going all the way back to the wheel, thousands of years ago. What would you say is the most impactful technology of all time?
I think it is simple. The internet, it changed access. AI is now changing how we use that access. So I would just put it that way.
We talk about what AI is going to do for business and what AI could do for, governments and so forth. But what would you like to see AI automate for you in your future?
One thing that I feel could be pretty interesting is like the repetitive decision making inside what we're kind of doing is what I want AI to actually do it for me. And a lot of tasks are now happening in that way as well. And not just the tasks, but also the workflow that slow teams down is something which is that could be pretty interesting when it comes to AI automation in the future.
What are some examples of that?
I think one thing, talk about, the podcast that we're doing. Maybe if I want the transcript and if I want it to go out and, tell me everything about why this podcast, was important for your audience and how can I make that difference in terms of the conversation as well, gives me an understanding through AI. But just after the conversation is done, I have all the details that this is what you spoke. These are maybe the repetitive things that you've kind of spoken about, but you can maybe add these, and it can also go out and search my, conversations with other leaders and give me an understanding that, okay, here are the different things that you've learned as well from different leaders. Maybe you could use your knowledge here. So basically having that sort of thing where we're not going in individually and finding those things is like the gaps, but also helping me making that decision that, oh, next time when you are on a podcast, your are top 10 points that you need to think about that you can definitely share with the larger audience. So those, and I think that can still be done in the AI world where we are, but I think it can just get more accurate in the future.
Yeah, I think that's the critical word. It's the accuracy part of it that I think is the part that gives me a lot of hesitation at the moment when I'm using these tools. And I think Ray Wong from Constellation said it actually on this podcast over a year ago, is there are some things where accuracy is helpful. There are some things where accuracy is critical. And when using a lot of these tools, accuracy is not necessarily always you're not always confident that you're getting an accurate answer. I completely agree with you. All right, last but not least, what are some of the best practices that you've learned as someone who's been working with data all of their life?
Keep it simple. Focus on data quality first. Everyone's in that AI world. Everyone's talking about AI, and obviously AI is doing all the cool stuff, but focusing on the data quality is the first step, and always tie data to, a work or a business outcome. I feel that can make a lot of tasks very easier, not only just for those enterprise leaders out there, but anyone who's working in data and are moving towards using AI as well.
Absolutely. And that's a great answer. And we'll talk about that in just a minute. But
Yeah.
for my first question, first I've got a statement to make. 1 million subscribers on YouTube. Unbelievable. When you started the platform, did you ever think it would get this big?
It is still a pinch me moment, to be honest, because honestly, whatever we do, we've done it for the community. And, this is very niche community as well. We're not going out and talking about to, all the technology folks. We're just focused on data and AI. So getting that sort of audience interested in what we're talking is pretty surprising, but at the same time, getting that sort of followers as well just gives us more validation and motivation to run in the same direction and do more and bring more to the community. And that is one of the reasons you would find me at maybe 30 different conferences in a year. And that is almost 30 weeks of travel. But that keeps us on the road, that keeps us motivated. And yes, it is still a pinch me moment.
I love that. Well, congratulations. It's huge.
Thank you.
The obvious question is, what inspired you to create it in the first place? Did you have a background in podcasting and content creation?
Nope. If someone asked me my background in terms of the education, I'm an investment banker in, finance. That's what my studies were, but I never worked in finance. That's a different story. I worked in research. I worked in research, in market research, where we used to create market research reports. I used to also work for a publishing company, which gave me the maximum exposure in data and AI. And that's where I used to work with tech authors in data, AI, and cybersecurity to publish books. So that gave me a lot more understanding about the space, but also gave me an understanding of how big of a gap it is when it comes to the enterprises and what the vendors are talking, and how can we bridge that gap in the most easiest way. And that's where the Ravit Show happened, and slowly and steadily this just became like a full-fledged media company. And in the last 6.5 years, we've grown our community, we've grown the ways how we kind of put out content and how we bring, things to our, community as easily as possible. But it just helps them to understand the most hard topics in the most easiest way from the best of the best leaders in the data and AI world.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. It's incredible that you've done that. It's just amazing.
Thank you.
As you say, pinch me moment. So as you say, it's been like over 5 years, like 6 years, as you say, hundreds and hundreds of interviews and episodes. You do a lot of blogging as well, so you do a lot of creative writing.
Sure.
What do you think has changed most? And it's only been a short period of time, but what do you think's changed most since you started?
I think a lot of things have kind of, obviously changed in the last 6 years. What I feel is the biggest change that has happened is like when I used to talk to a lot of data companies back then, it used to be core data. Now the core data companies are also talking about AI. So that is like the biggest shift that we're kind of seeing right now. But what I feel is in 2020, the conversations were more about infrastructure moving to the cloud. Today, everything is about AI, like I said. But with a shift, earlier it was we need to adopt AI. Now it is, oh, we are actually working in AI and we are wanting to see that business outcome, which is very important in the world where we are. There is also big shift towards data ownership, data quality, real ROI with ROI from AI. People are less interested in experiments and more focused on outcomes nowadays. So I feel that shift has become pretty interesting.
I agree with you, especially with regards to the effectiveness conversation. I think the demos or the proof of concepts of a LLM, for example, doing something, it was cute a couple of years ago, but now it's, well, I guess it goes back to this accuracy conversation, right? Is it needs to start doing things for the business in a way that we can trust,
Right.
or it's just a fancy demo.
So true.
All right, so you talked about what's changed, but one of the things I like about the position that you're in is you also get a chance to see what stays the same, right? So what topics just seem to keep coming back, in your opinion? What are some of the things that haven't changed in 5-6 years?
I think there's obviously the biggest topic that hasn't changed in the last 5-6 years is again data quality. Like we all have been so focused on, and this is not a problem that has been from last 5 years or 6 years. It has been a problem forever, right? Data quality needs to be fixed, and we are all running towards it in the best ways possible. When we're talking about agentic world where we are, or when we are talking about the agents and how they operate, the biggest gameplay is if your data is structured or unstructured, if agents can actually get the right data that they need to make sure that you're getting the right business outcome, because leaders are not going to talk anymore about, oh, if the agents are doing their job. They're going to talk about, if they're doing their job, am I getting the business outcome we are aiming for? And if we are not getting that, what's wrong? So that's where the first stage of data foundation comes into the game, which is where data, quality plays an important role, data governance plays an important role, reliable data and strong controls, right? That is something which is definitely very risky if not done properly. So
Yeah.
is what I feel has not changed and is not going to change for a little longer as well, because data trust, governance, integrations, these are like the most basic things people expect when they are in any sort of AI activity that they're doing.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, we've had a few people on the podcast. We're only, I think, 70 or so episodes at the moment now.
Nice.
Well, it's nothing compared to you. But the topic of data quality, even data literacy, comes up a lot as a persistent problem. And I've been wondering why it's a persistent. When everyone's saying, "Oh, we need to work on data quality," but data quality is not improving, I've been trying to figure out: is it because we haven't got the solutions for it, or is it because it's a persistent problem that never really goes away? You can't ever say to yourself, well, the data quality is perfect, we can stop worrying about it. It's like, I suppose, cleaning your house or looking after your garden or your car. You have to kind of keep constantly going back and tuning it up, or it will naturally degrade towards entropy. What are your thoughts?
I feel that's actually a very good question, Paul, because what I feel is sometimes it's also the cultural mindset where, and which is rarely spoken, because I feel like sometimes the cultural mindset keeps you moving in a direction with all the hype and all the noise that we see on internet. Everyone wants to run faster. Even the bosses sitting in those bigger enterprises will be, reaching out to their enterprise leaders and saying that, oh, why aren't we doing that in the agentic AI space? Why are we not, obviously giving more features to our consumers? And I understand from where they're kind of coming, but in the cultural setup, how it affects is because they want to run faster, they start forgetting the basics. And if you kind of start forgetting the basics, it just becomes a challenge in the long run. And that is why you've been reading so many different papers or so many different news around why AI projects are still failing. And most of it only happens because data is inconsistent, data pipelines are fragile, governance is an afterthought. Companies jump to models before fixing the basics. That is why the AI projects fail, or they're stuck in project or the pilot mode, and someone takes that step where, oh, I'm going to be focused on my data consistency, I'm going to make sure my data pipelines don't break if I want to achieve that agentic or a solution, or if I want to achieve that AI project to be successful. If that's done at the cultural mindset level, I think it can go to places. And one more big problem is because the space is evolving so quickly, it's hard to keep up. Like every week through in the last maybe 3.5 years, we have seen some or the other big news kind of coming in, talking about from MCPs to now agentic solutions to agents to now we're talking about context. It all plays a very important role to make sure that AI works, but there's a bigger role that people forget, which is only if your data is as good as it will actually make the AI work, right? So I feel that's something to keep in mind. And if that is, and a lot of companies are understanding that as well. And that's why they have successful AI projects being deployed, and they've seen great results too. So if companies have that mindset shift, it will go to places.
Yeah, I think that's great advice. And just listening to you, you've got me thinking that maybe the pattern for success with AI is to focus your project on areas where you can be more confident in data quality, not just in the current data quality, but in maintaining data quality and governance. So rather than applying AI to every part of the business at once, trying to cover as much ground as possible, focus on a couple of areas, but focus on those areas where you can be confident that the data is going to lead to better accuracy. It's an interesting thought, actually. As you say, there's sort of general sense of hurry up and do something, which I think is causing us to skip the basics. I think that's really good advice. You mentioned Agentic. It's, as you say, with Agentic, context are kind of the buzzwords of the moment. You've just got back from Gartner, is that right?
That's right.
So they've got their hype curve, right? They always talk about the hype curve. Where do you think Agentic's sitting? Your personal take. Where do you think Agentic's sitting on the hype or the adoption curve? Is it early? Is it late? Is it overhyped? Are people getting disappointed? Where would you put it right now?
I think it's in the stage where it's getting started. It will pick up a lot of heat in the next maybe 6 to 12 months, unless something new comes up or a new buzzword comes up. But I'm pretty sure why everyone is going back to context is again to our points where how are you creating a context for even AI is through the data. And this goes back to obviously if you give the right context to how your AI agent should be working, you should have the right data to give that context at the same time too. So this, I feel, in the AI hype cycle, this is we're just getting started. In the next at least 6 to 8 months, we're going to see a lot of companies having their own contextual layer. There'll be obviously enterprises who would be focusing more on making sure that they have their context right, if they haven't already started working on it. But I see a lot of enterprises already working on it, so it will definitely make that difference.
From a practical standpoint, are you starting to see or hearing about, real world use cases and results with agentic technologies in enterprise, or is it still kind of that pilot stage? Going back to your conversation about ROI.
I'm seeing a lot of real use cases out there where I was talking to an enterprise who works in hospitality, and this is hotels that they have multiple hotels all across the states, and they have actually deployed agents internally for the calling. Like any guest who calls, there's obviously agents helping them not only just to make orders, if they want to, if they need help or if they need anything in the room, the agents are actually picking up the orders, and the work is done. So there are real use cases coming out of it. There's obviously more agentic solutions that are being worked on as well, because now agents are also learning from agents. They are talking to each other, but at the same time, it's also a great way for the enterprises to understand that this this can be done. It can help us do things faster too. Whereas if maybe at 2 a.m., you need to keep a human on the desk. I'm not saying that we are replacing humans by this. This is more because that becomes another controversial topic. But then I feel like human in the loop will always be there in some or the other way. We humans do find a way to do something from centuries we've been doing work, and we'll still keep doing it, but the way how we do the work will change. So I'm definitely seeing a lot of different use cases that are actually happening in the enterprises right now. It's no more that it's just, that they are in the experimental stage. I've used it myself, like where I've called on the reception and there's an agent who's actually talking to me. So it just becomes interesting. And then there are also ways where enterprises and there are solution providers who have gone to the next level and also started getting feedback on, okay, what is this agent not capable to do and how can we make it better. So that training has also kind of started, and there has been feedback from obviously companies, the enterprises, to the vendors, and they're solving those bigger problems as well, which is they already have the feedback too. So it's for real is what I'm seeing.
I love it. Speaking of agents, OpenClaw has kind of caught the world's imagination at the moment.
Right.
What's your take on the pros and cons of having an agent have access to all of your email and all of your files?
I know it is, first of all, looking at like OpenClaw itself, when it was announced and when obviously I got a chance to play around with a little bit, I was blown away that
It's amazing.
it can actually go out, read my emails, create responses, even send those responses. Obviously we can have guardrails in place to make sure that what it needs to access, what it shouldn't be accessing, which is very important, which is what I think most of the companies or those who are using it should also understand, that oh, you can have governance in place, you can have guardrails in place to make sure you're controlling it in the right way. But I feel it is game changer. Like this is the world where we are. I always say these are very interesting times about being in the world where OpenClaw was launched. First of all, it's open source, so which is a game changer where anyone doesn't have to pay, and you can start using it right away. Second thing, it can do a lot of manual work which you used to be doing, or the repetitive tasks that you all are doing it on daily basis. You don't need to do it. There's obviously, say in my work, I would have like around 100 emails every day. I want to make sure that it's been segregated in a way where I have the newsletters in one place, I have maybe my important emails around conferences in one place. So it kind of does everything on its own. You just need to have that that command in place, and it will do its job. And when I open my emails, I can see everything that is relevant to me and according to what is most important that I should be looking at. And then, obviously, what is least important for at least that day. So it just becomes easier. And this is like the smallest examples. People are using it for so many different things. And it has been a game changer for a lot of different tasks. So I think OpenClaw is another one you'll see a lot of, and I think there's already a lot of companies who are already using. We've seen at NVIDIA GTC, Jensen announced about Nemotron and, obviously NemoClaw, right? I have actually interviewed someone from the NemoClaw team as well. And it blew my mind when he said that, Ravit, you are at this booth of NemoClaw along with AWS. I will tell you something. What we've done is the demo that I'll be showing to you, we've created it with NemoClaw. We didn't do anything. So just imagine he's showing me something about NemoClaw, but they didn't put that. NemoClaw actually created a demo to showcase it to the larger community and those who are attending. So that's the power I'm kind of talking about when it comes to OpenClaw, NemoClaw, anything around Claw, and there will be a lot of companies who will have this system integrated into their game, and customers will make the most of it.
Super fun. Super fun. I love it. Well, you've kind of given me a bit of a look into the future there. So I'm curious, you speak to a lot of different leaders, practitioners in the community and in vendor land. What are people predicting is coming next? What can we expect? And I suppose specifically, what's got you excited about the future? The particular things that you're kind of buzzing, thinking, I can't wait to see what happens here.
One thing definitely is a no-brainer, and it's a very cliche answer, where AI, where it's moving, and how it's going to make that change in the next. And I don't even think about anymore about 2-3 years. I don't know what it's going to look like. Maybe in the next 6 months, with all the amazing innovations that are happening, we're going to be in an interesting spot with AI and how agents will be actually part of our day-to-day job as well, which is where you might say that, oh, Ravit, all my emails are actually being replied through these agents. I don't do it anymore because I just focus on the emails that needs maybe a new attention from my end. Otherwise, everything's just very much automated. I focus on different tasks. I focus on meeting more people. I focus on the human exposure as compared to being behind the machines. So I feel that future I'm excited about, where machines will be, I wouldn't say less relevant, it will just be a lot more automated, and there will be more of human play, which will play a very important role. But in terms of tech, what I feel is, AI is moving from assistant to operators. So it will be your operator out there, and it will help you. More focus on real-time data will definitely play a very important role, and a lot of leaders are focusing on that. I feel with everything that we are also talking, there's another very important topic that comes up, which is stronger push towards responsible AI, which is a no-brainer, and which is very important, because with all the power that we will have, there will be, obviously, like you said, do you trust giving your emails out to an agent? So that trust factor will play a very important role, and responsible AI will be the key word there. Also, I feel leaders are preparing for a world where, AI is embedded into every workflow, like I said, and not just separate tool. So anything from driving a car to, going to a party, I think some or the other way, AI will be a part of our lives. And yes, we all need to be excited for it, but also be careful. I feel, and that, with all the buzz, we'll keep learning, but next 1 year will be pretty interesting space, at least for AI.
With every new type of technology, usually the law takes a bit of time. The legal system takes time to catch up with the technology. So, for example, we introduced telephones, hundreds of years ago. Then we had to introduce laws about what you could and couldn't do, over a telephone, for example. Recently, electric scooters were big around the world. The kids started hacking them, taking away the speed restrictions. The government's put in laws about e-scooters because otherwise people start hurting themselves on the road.
Right.
The law is a lagging indicator, right? It's always catching up with the naughty kids, with the naughty people. What is you obviously speak to a lot of technologists and practitioners. I don't know, are you speaking to many people in government or policy setting agencies? And even if you aren't, what are your thoughts about how we could expect, and specifically how practitioners can expect governments to start to set boundaries around things like responsible AI and putting maybe more laws or guardrails in place to protect people?
Oh, definitely. That will happen once there are more use cases. And this is a very important question, Paul. Why? Because I feel AI will give you all the power, but there will be obviously bad guys who will be using it in bad ways as well. So if we need to protect that, there needs to be responsible AI game in the play. And there are obviously government officials, not only just here in states, but anywhere in the world where, all countries are looking at it very closely and making sure where AI is not being used for the bad things. Whenever there's newer technology that comes into the game, there will be pros, cons, and there will be difficulties. But I think as humans, we always find ways and we see more use cases to make sure where things are being protected at the same time. And, obviously, there will be bad guys who will always try to go after it. But then there will be some policies which will be made around responsible AI, how it needs to be done, who has what sort of control. There could be age restrictions in place as well for certain things, and that will obviously be very important piece for those who have been using AI, and that will also make it much more easier for people to trust AI. So right now, not everyone's wanting to trust AI to that level. Obviously, they are seeing the results, but then it can do a lot of not so good things as well. But once that piece comes into the game, I feel it will just be a game changer. And a lot as we are moving towards that direction, as we are seeing new use cases, governments are also working towards making sure that okay, in this use case, how many different aspects of responsible AI should play a role, and what are the policies that needs to be set. So we'll see that coming as we move forward in this space as well.
Ravit, it's just been an absolute pleasure getting to meet you.
Same here, Paul.
Congratulations again on, I can't believe, 1 million subscribers. That is just such a huge outcome.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
I won't congratulate you on being on the road 30 weeks of the year. I've lived a life like that. It's absolutely, everyone thinks it's a glamorous life. It is hard work. So respect to you for that.
Thank you.
All the best for the future. And we'd love to have you back on the show at some point in time. It was great having you here.
I can't wait. This was amazing, Paul. You're a fantastic host. And we can chat for another hour, but this was amazing and definitely looking for a 2.0.
Ravit Bhai, thank you, my friend. All right, if people are interested in who haven't heard of you, where can they go to learn more?
I think LinkedIn is the best place to get started, and then YouTube, you'll find the Ravit Show, and you'll find a lot of interviews out there. I promise, I try to not spam, but then we have good content, we have good people that we talk to, so we try and push as much as we can on YouTube. So you'll see many notifications if you subscribe to our channel.
Awesome. Excellent. Well, thank you so much, mate.
Thanks, Paul.
And thank you all for listening in. That's a wrap. If you've got any questions or comments, we do love to hear from you. You can drop a line in the comments section. You can hit up Cloudera, speaking of LinkedIn, on LinkedIn using the handle @Cloudera with your thoughts. A tremendous array of incredible guests coming up. So if you do like what you've heard, and I hope you did, like, share, and subscribe. You know what to do so you don't miss another drop. Thanks again to Cloudera for hosting another episode of the AI Forecast, and thanks again for listening in. We will see you all, or at least I'll see you all next week. You'll see me. You know what I mean.
I love it.
Bye, guys.